I've bought, sold, modified, and even sometimes broken quite a bit of camera gear over the last 5 years while getting into photography and video. And there's one category of gear that I've had a particularly strong love-hate relationship with, and that's what I would call convenient cameras or creative cameras, depending on the marketing angle. Standard action cameras, mini creative cameras, 360 cameras, and even one-of-a-kind cameras. And one section of their target audience is aspiring or current content creators, with similar value propositions that are often grounded in portability, simplicity, convenience or creativity, and quality. But as someone who has extensively used all of these devices, tried to fit them into my workflow, rigged them out into different configurations, and ultimately bought into the hype over and over again, I want to comment on my experience with each of these devices and what I wish I had considered before some of them became expensive shelf ornaments. But quick disclaimer, I do believe that camera gear always comes down to the right fit, the right camera for the right person, the right use case, which is going to become a major theme in this video, so I do not mean to pick on any of the cameras I talk about today. What I truly want to do is go over my experience with them, how I've ended up using them, and what I do differently now when it comes to investing in this kind of category of cameras. Because I did buy another one of these creative little cameras. Anyway, to start, let's touch on two important topics, marketing and price. I think what makes marketing, and particularly influencer marketing, so powerful and perhaps dangerous to my wallet is that they aren't just selling gear, they're selling possibilities. Want a durable camera to shoot crazy slow motion? Shots you can reframe and post to make it look like you have a camera crew? Shots you didn't even think were possible? The smallest, lightest gimbal that can track you? The marketing for these products is incredible. It's easy to start feeling FOMO about your own creative process and dream about what incredible shots you could get if only you had this device. And that was the exact hook, line, and sinker that got me to buy at least 3 of these 4 cameras. I was enticed by the possibility that if only I had that tool, then I would definitely be able to get that shot, which will also be a theme here. But the marketing only starts with the actual device. Action cameras, for example, might start off semi-affordably at $350 to $400, but once you get into the stores themselves, then you get hit with the accessories and the upsells. Well, they made that camera look really good. Maybe that's what my videos are missing. It's about $400 for the camera. It's not bad. The NDs, if I want it to look really cinematic, if I want to lock in my shutter speed, I will add it to cart. Batteries. Batteries is something I'll have to look into. I'll probably need at least 2, right? So a total of 3 batteries, so I'll have to get those. Put those in there. Add to cart. And if I'm gonna have 3 batteries, I probably don't want to be like constantly taking them out and putting them back in the camera to charge them. So yeah, I probably do need the dual battery charger. Yeah, I'll add that to cart. If I'm going to be vlogging, I need a little tripod anyways. We have the vlogging grip. Let's add that to cart. Yeah, the media mod, I'll definitely need that so I can plug in a microphone. Cart. And we are already before tax at $808. $800 for an action camera. That's a lot more than I was expecting, right? So let's go through and weed some things out. Like maybe I'll skip the NDs. Batteries, a little more important. The Volta, we're gonna skip that too, because you know, I've got the extra batteries. I don't need the Volta grip. I have a tripod. But now we're kind of down to what I would say is like the core bit. You know, we have the GoPro. I will need to plug in a mic, so media mod makes sense. Extra batteries, SD, and the dual charger. And we're still at $628, which is significantly more than the $400 that brought me in to the shopping cart. We are going to grab, not these, not that. We're gonna grab the head mount. We'll grab some like common ones. Add to cart. Grab the chest mount. And let's grab something handy like a grab bag. I've bought one of these before, so I could try to mount my GoPro to different things that didn't really go well, unfortunately. And we are back to $700, with just the camera, a couple batteries, media mod, and 2 mounts. Head strap, chesty, grab bag for, you know, putting it on like a helmet or something. And I think the point of this specific part of the video is that a lot of times when I'm shopping, or when I was shopping for these cameras, I would be drawn in by that base model price, and then quickly realize that all of the things I needed to make the camera as useful as I needed it to be ended up, like in this case, potentially doubling the price that I was originally brought into the store with. And at that point, I had often already convinced myself that this was something I really, really wanted or really, really needed. And it was a lot easier to explain the extra cost to myself and just dive in and be like, well, I really need it, or I'm really going to use it, so I might as well invest in the whole system that would make the product make sense. At least that's something that I experienced a few times. When I was first looking at a lot of these tools, I was teaching myself how to film as well. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was making YouTube videos, and I had a strong desire to make higher quality videos for an audience that was growing on my first channel, which made me particularly susceptible to gear reviews and marketing. But I am getting a little bit ahead of myself, so let's just start at the beginning with the GoPro Hero 8. I built my first YouTube channel in part with this GoPro Hero 8, which quickly broke after the wind knocked it over and had some annoying quirks like shutting off in extreme hot or cold temperatures, but it was my workhorse for a very long time. For context, I filmed beginner skateboarding and freestyle skateboarding content on my other YouTube channel, and this got me the shots I needed. It was small and discreet, and I got much more than my money's worth using this over the first 3 years of my channel, I would say. It was my main clip camera at first, but later I did try to rig it out with the media mod and a mic to see if I could get more use out of it as a main talking head camera as well. I was hoping that having a really, really small kind of vlogging setup would help me get over a lot of my fear of filming in public and encourage me to do more of my talking bits outside. And to this day, I borrow terribly lit, backlit, old grainy, super zoomed in and pixelated clips that I took during these GoPro days. However, despite how convenient and small and powerful this camera was, I did struggle to get over that very digital processed look. I used it for a long time because it was all that I had, but once I had nicer cameras with images I liked a lot more, it became a lot harder to convince myself to use the GoPro. Because in general, for the way that I was filming, there were very few shots that I could get on the GoPro that I couldn't get on my mirrorless setup, which led me to leaving the GoPro untouched in my bag on most days. And even for something like a POV shot, this camera is just a little bit uncomfortable to use. It's a little bit heavy and it bounces around a lot if you do it on a head mount or a helmet mount, which I had. It just wasn't that comfortable. So after trying a couple times, I never did any more POV shots. This is also the camera I bought the most accessories for, trying to make it more usable and more convenient. Really basically trying to convince myself to use it and do more with it. But I ended up barely using any of the accessories. Even the quick swap systems that I tried out, which was unfortunate. But that's not to say that this is a bad camera. The low light capabilities are pretty bad, but it is almost 5 years old now, so that's to be expected. But for the right use case, I think it's still a pretty powerful camera. And in fact, I do believe that the YouTuber Theo Crawford uses this camera, the GoPro Hero 8, for a lot of his POV street photography videos. And he makes incredible videos, so I think that says a lot about how good the quality of this camera in particular still is. And even though I do not love the look of this camera in particular, I do not regret buying it. It got me so much incredible footage and was there for me when I really needed it and how I needed it for years. But for the last 2 years, it has been packed away, untouched. And unfortunately, I was going to start using it again, but I can't get the camera to stay on. So I do think it's kind of past its shelf life for me. When it came to getting the smaller, more creative Insta360 Go 3, I was excited. It really felt like the mini camera of my dreams, as once again someone who's incredibly self-conscious about filming in public. And it was to a certain extent. It was so small and so incognito, and I did bring it on a trip with me to capture many moments I wouldn't have dared use my full camera for. But my biggest issue with this, once again, was the quality. It's so soft and grainy in low light and indoors. It doesn't really look good unless you're outdoors in bright sunlight and right in front of the lens. And even then, it doesn't really look good to me. And I do realize that the value proposition of this isn't the image quality, but it was just so much worse than my expectations, than kind of like the videos I was seeing of it, that I was definitely disappointed in the image quality that I got from this. Because I could have gotten pretty much the same exact shots on my GoPro, but with better quality. Not mirrorless level quality, but much better quality than what was coming out of the Insta Go 3. So I could have saved myself the hundreds of dollars that I spent on this camera, because out of all the cool features and cute accessories, the niche use of it being so tiny, they really didn't come in handy for me that often. I can fit my GoPro in most of the spaces that I can fit this and have better image quality. The magnet seems very handy, but unfortunately for me, it never did come in handy. And even if it did, it didn't look good. So I was always, it was very unfortunate to me, because I was really excited about this camera and quite disappointed with it. So for a while, I rarely touched this camera and truly regretted buying it. Unfortunately, it turned out that I wasn't creative enough to force it into situations that would make it actually useful. At least until recently, because I do want to use it. I don't want it to just sit on my shelf as an expensive decoration. So I started using it for POV clips in my skate tutorials. And for me, that's been the sweet spot for this tiny lens. It is handy to check my framing on the body of the camera. Outdoor in the sunshine, the image looks the best and pretty decent when the subject, which is my skateboard, is about 5 feet away from the camera. And it's so tiny, it actually is comfortable to skate with, unlike the GoPro. But then again, I also tried to get some POV footage of me using my Sony FX30 before I sold it, just to think that it didn't really look that good. It was bizarre. I don't know if the minimum focusing distance is farther than I think it is, because I shot this in like bright, nice daylight, and the image just doesn't look sharp. And even when it comes to the skateboarding clips, a POV shot like that, I'm only filming a couple minutes once every few videos. So if I had to film that, I could have just dealt with the discomfort and used my GoPro anyways. I didn't need this camera. Which means that unfortunately, this is one device that I would not buy again and wouldn't easily recommend to somebody. Like, I would want to have a real conversation about their use case first before I recommended this. When it comes to consumer 360 cameras, I've bought two. The original Insta360 One X and also the 3X. And it was similar to how I got sold on the Go 3. As a solo creator and someone who films skateboarding by themselves, it made so much sense to have a camera that would follow my every move in post and do so smoothly. But I ran into two problems. One, it was really time consuming to reframe in post. And two, the quality was truly just much worse than even my GoPro Hero 8. And that goes for both the One X and the 3X, the third generation. So no matter what I shot, I really just could not love the footage. It was always just okay, or sometimes even really bad in my opinion. But I would go through these periods where I was determined to film with the 360 camera and get moving shots of me skateboarding, and could just never keep doing it. When the 3 came out, I was really hoping that the image would be good enough that I'd finally fall in love with it, but it still wasn't there for me. It still looked just okay to me even in direct sunlight. Maybe lowering the EV would have helped me expose it better, but I wasn't really in the habit of lowering my EV levels when I was using that camera. But even more than the video quality, I do think it was the reframing that I liked the least. Unfortunately, I just did not have the patience for it, and even if I filmed a couple clips on this, unless they were really, really good, I didn't want to bother reframing it. And that kind of makes the best feature not so useful to me. Being able to reframe in post is the selling point of this camera, and unfortunately for the videos that I made, there's truly never a following shot that would make or break the videos that I was making. There were always alternative shots that I could have used. So knowing all this, it made it really hard to use this camera, and it's also one of the cameras on this list that I would not buy again. I would rather try to get somebody to help me film a particular shot or just choose other angles, because the 360 cameras just do not fit into my workflow. But that's not to say that this isn't a good camera for skateboarding content either, because I actually know a creator who films their videos using an Insta360 camera, and their stuff looks great. Like, that's why I want to keep emphasizing, I'm not picking on this camera. It is person, camera, use case. Like, those need to come together to make a little happy family here. And unfortunately, the Insta360 One X and 3X did not fit my needs or my workflow. The DJI Osmo Pocket 3, out of all these convenient cameras, I would say impressed me the most. I think it looks significantly better than the other action or small sensor cameras I've used, including my phone, but I don't have the newest, greatest lens on my phone. I am using the iPhone 13 mini, so I know that camera is quite a few generations out already. I do think the Osmo Pocket 3 thrives for close-up shots, environmental shots, and talking close to the camera. But if I set it down to film any kind of distance away, which I do have to do when I skate, then I do think the image gets soft and doesn't really look that good anymore. I would again, 10 out of 10 times, rather use my dedicated camera if I can, because I think it does look better, even when I have to zoom in post to kind of reframe a shot. But for being up close to the camera and talking to it, or showing items off, or capturing my surroundings, I think it works the best and looks the best out of all these convenient cameras I've talked about so far. Not to mention just how convenient it is to have the DJI Mic 2 to easily connect to it, which makes it truly a great vlogging or content creator camera in my opinion, specifically for people who film outside. I think you can make it look okay with good lighting to film indoors, but yeah. I think the Pocket 3 truly excels when filming outside. If someone was filming inside all the time, I don't think I'd recommend this camera to them, actually. I think you can get other cameras that would look better indoors for similar, if not lower prices. Unless maybe you're really looking for that tracking feature, then this camera makes a lot more sense, even if you're filming indoors, but you probably do have to be really conscious of how you're lighting it. The tracking feature I do think is pretty useful, or it could be useful. It really comes in handy if you kind of want to walk and talk to the camera at the same time. Obviously, it can just lock onto your face and you don't have to pay too close attention to whether you're in the frame or not. But I'm not a fan of putting it down, sitting in front of it, and then tracking my own face. I don't really like those micro movements that the camera makes to keep my face perfectly centered. And it certainly doesn't follow very well for skateboarding shots, because the moment I jump, the camera like goes up and down and around. But I mean, this camera is not good for skateboarding in general because it is much too fragile. Overall, I do love this camera. I think it is a really good companion to my Fujifilm X-M5. I'll probably use it more for this channel than my skateboarding channel, But then again, I actually have found it pretty useful for filming the talking head for vertical content, even on my skate channel. So overall, I do not regret getting this camera. In a way, I've wasted hundreds of dollars over the years chasing simplicity and convenience, almost in a way to soothe my anxieties while filming, just to realize that I'm a kind of an image snob. Despite the fact that nobody watching my videos cared about the image quality except for me. So on one hand, I do think it's maybe a little ironic or perhaps even hypocritical of me, because I do believe in story over gear. 10 out of 10 times, I would rather watch something that is well presented over simply pretty images that don't really have much story, substance, or information. And I downgraded my kit for those exact reasons. I chose less capable gear so that I could film more. But on the other hand, I am a firm believer in using the gear that I own. I didn't dislike the Insta360 because of its poor image quality. I disliked it because I didn't want to use it. Over time, I had better image options at my fingertips, and 9 times out of 10, I chose the camera with better image quality over my action cameras. And unfortunately, I discovered that having a handy tool wasn't enough to motivate me to get creative shots. So they ended up collecting dust, and that's what bothered me. So in an attempt to protect myself from purchasing convenient or quirky cameras in the future, especially ones that I will not be using enough to justify the purchase to myself, I've given myself 2 specific rules when it comes to purchasing. 1, whatever it is that I think this camera is going to do for me, say a particular shot or style, I want to try shooting that first with the gear that I already have. Or even consider trying different shots instead, particularly if it's a shot that I'm not doing often. Because the creative shots that I can get with these kinds of cameras are endless, but am I ever actually trying them? My phone might work just as well for a unique shot that I only do here and there once in a while. So I really want to give it a real try to replace a camera that I might need with one that I already have. And if that proves significantly difficult or unreasonable, then I think I'm in a better situation to confidently purchase one of these cameras. And 2, even if I buy one of these cameras, I want to wait on most of the accessories. I might not need the cute light, the little tripod, the cold shoe, or the NDs. Because for me, I found that for 90% of the accessories that I've bought in the past, I end up not liking, not using, or not needing. But those are just a few guardrails that I have put in place for myself. I like gear, but I don't want to buy gear that I don't use. Which leads us to the final camera of convenience. Last week I bought the DJI Osmo Action 4. Why? Because there is one place that I absolutely am not willing to bring any kind of camera other than an action camera to, and that's an actual skate park. The risk of breaking my camera is simply too high. And of course, I am way too self-conscious to be filming there. I have tried and failed in the past to bring a real camera with me, but it's just not something I ever feel comfortable doing. But this little guy, it's tiny. I can replace the lens cover. This model in particular actually connects to the DJI Mic 2, which I already have. The Action 5 didn't seem like that much of an improvement in the ways that I need the action camera to function. And it happened to be on sale for $209, which just made sense as a camera that I will be putting in danger constantly by skating close to it. Which is where I think the action camera truly shines. So I got the Action 4 and 1 extra battery. During my GoPro days, I did have 3 batteries and one of the big dual chargers, but I really don't think I ever made it to the 3rd battery. So this time around, and given that I think this will have better battery life than the GoPro Hero 8, I just got 1 battery. If it turns out that I'm consistently going through 2 batteries, then at that point, I'll buy another one. Luckily, I do have GoPro mounts left over, so there truly is no need for me to get anything else. But I'm not getting NDs, no cold shoe expansions, I'm not gonna get the fancy charging handle or any extra quick releases. Unless something comes up multiple times that I cannot get around with the gear that I already have, I don't want to buy anything else. My big gripe with these cameras is that they have become so impressive and the marketing has gotten so persuasive over the years that it's easier than ever to buy a camera that looks more convenient, more useful, or looks like more of an upgrade than it actually is. I learned a lot about myself as a creator while buying and regretting gear. But there are creators who swear by the gear that I don't like. Creators who like the look of these cameras and know how to make them look much better than I do. Creators willing to go the extra mile for a unique or fun shot, and their videos are fun to watch thanks to that. Aside from the GoPro Hero 8, which I needed, I think what I learned about myself is that I was buying these cameras hoping that I would film more like the creators I looked up to. If I only had the right tool, you know, then I would go the extra mile for that shot. But I discovered I'm not really that kind of creator right now. I like simple shots. I want to slow down and take my time to set up my camera again for different shots. I like using mirrorless cameras with lots of buttons. And I would rather spend more time writing for my videos than an hour to get one particular shot. And I think that's okay. Making this video and deeply reflecting on kind of how and why I buy camera gear is, in a sense, selfishly to help strengthen my resistance to marketing, to make sure that I'm buying the right gear for me and not falling in love with the right gear for someone else or succumbing to FOMO for an upsell that I won't use. Cameras are fits in my opinion. The right person, the right tool, the right situation. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the video. Or perhaps more accurately, I hope you enjoyed the scripted ramble. It's too big for you to knock off, maybe? Well, maybe not.